Alright, we'll start the Kabbalat Shabbat service. Maybe see it on page 23. V'chuna Ranana. V'chuna Ranana l'Adonai Nariya l'Suri Sheinu Nekadma Fana V'soda V'zmiras Niriya Lo Kigel Gadol Adonai Melech Gadol Al Kalohim Asher B'yadam Echprei Aretz V'siyafos Harim Lo Asher Lo Hayam V'hu Asahu B'yabeshes Yadav Yitzor V'oyu V'nishtachar Nivrecha V'fnei Adonai Yaseinu Kihu Eloheinu V'nachnu Amir Yisov V'tzon Yado Hayam and V'kolus Ishmo Al Takshu Levavchem K'meriva Ki Amas B'midbar Shenusinah V'sechem Mechanim Yigam Roing Koli Arbayim Shana Kut B'dor V'omar Antoyei Lev V'peim V'heim Lo Yadu D'Rakoi Asher Nishbati V'yapim Yavon Amnuchasi Shu Adonai Shu Chodesh Shu Adonai Kol Ha'aretz. We're on Psalm 96, which is on the bottom of page 24. Ashiru l'Adonai Shir Chadash Shiru l'Adonai Kol Ha'aretz Ashiru l'Adonai Baruch Hu Shemo Basru miyom liyom Yeshua So sapru v'goyim kevodo V'chol hu'amim niflosav Ki gadol Adonai u'mehulol mehod Norahu al kol Elohim Ki kol Elohei ho'amim Elilim Vadonai Shamayim Ahasa Ohud V'hadar Lefanav Ohuz V'siferes V'mikdasho. We're on page 25. Havul Adonai Mishpechos Amim Havul Adonai Kavod V'oz Havul Adonai Kivod Shemo Sumin Chovo Lechatzeros Avishtachvu L'Adonai Bahadras Kodesh Chilu Miponav Kol Haaretz Imru V'Goyim Adonai Malach Avtichon Tevehel Bahal Timahod Yadinamim B'Meisharim Yismechu Hashemayim V'Sogel Haaretz Yiram Hayam Umlo Yalo Sadai Vechol Asher Bo Ahaz Yiranenu Kol Atzei Yovad Lefnei Adonai Kiva Lishbot Haaretz Yishbot Tevel Betzedek V'yamim behemunah so Ayadadadadadabam Yadadadadadadadadam Hadadadadidam bum bum bum. Psalm 97, we'll recite together in English. The Lord is king, let the earth rejoice. Let many islands be glad. Clouds and darkness are around him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Fire goes before him and burns his foes around about. His lightnings illuminate the world. The earth beholds and trembles. The mountains melt like wax before the Lord of all the earth. The heavens proclaim his righteousness, and all the peoples witness his glory. Ashamed be those who serve images, those who take pride in idols. Bow down to him, all you false gods. Zion hears and is glad, and the towns of Judah rejoice, because of thy judgments, O Lord. Thou, O Lord, art indeed supreme over all the earth. Thou art exalted high above all the false gods. You who love the Lord hate evil. He preserves the lives of his faithful followers. He rescues them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, joy for the upright in heart. Rejoice in the Lord, you righteous, and give thanks to his holy name. Or zaru al tzadik li yishrei lev simcha simchu tzadikim b'Adonai v'hodu l'zecha kadsho. We turn now to page 28, Psalm 98. We'll read again in English. Sing a new song to the Lord, for he has done wonders. His right hand, his holy arm, has brought him triumph. The Lord has made known his saving power. He has let the nations see his justice. He has remembered his kindness and faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the help of our God. Shout praise to the Lord, all the earth. Break into music, be jubilant and sing. Praise the Lord with the harp and the voice of song, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Shout praise before the King, the Lord. Let the sea in all its fullness thunder praise, the world and all those living in it. Let the rivers applaud, let the mountains sing in chorus before the Lord who comes to rule the earth. He will rule the world with righteousness and the peoples with justice. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishbot haaretz, yishbot tevel b'tzedek v'yamim b'mei shareim. Now Psalm 99, I'll recite in Hebrew. Adonai et malach yirkzu amim yoshev kruvim tanut haaretz Adonai b'tzien gadol b'ram al kalu amim Yodu shemcha gadol v'nor kadosh hu v'oz melech mishpat hevat v'kananta meshar mishpat tzedakah v'Yaakov Ato asis arom mu'adon Eloheinu v'shtachavu l'adam raglav kadosh hu Moshe v'Aharon b'Kohanav Ushmuel b'Korei Shemo Korem al Adonai v'hu yahanem b'amud anan Yidaver aleihem Shamru eidosav v'chok nosan lomo Adonai Eloheinu Ato Ganisom El Nosei Hayis Elohem B'nokei Malilosam Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'hishtachavu Lahar Kodesho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. It's customary to rise for the recitation of Psalm 29. Amizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai v'nei Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod Vos, page 29. Havul Adonai, Kvod Shemo, Hishtachvul Adonai, B'hadras Chodesh, Kohol Adonai al hamoyim el hakavod hirim Adonai al mayim rabim Kol Adonai ba'koach Kohol Adonai behadar Kohol Adonai shover arazim Vayshaber Adonai et arzei halvanon Vayakidem kemo regel Levanon v'siryon Kemo ven rehenim Kol Adonai Chotzev lahavos eish Kol Adonai Yachil midbar Yachil Adonai midbar Kodesh Kol Adonai Yechol lehel ayalos Yechsov yaros of yadadam bam bam Ayo v'hechalo Kulo merkavod Adonai lamabud yahashav Vayeshev Adonai melech li'olam Adonai oz le'yamo yitein Adonai yevarech esamo v'shalom. David, can you find I'll show you where we want to read something here. It says, read this from here to here, this paragraph. Can you read that? Okay.
The Lord sat enthroned at the flood. The Lord remains king forever. The Lord Lord will give strength to his people. The Lord will bless his people with peace.
Thank you very much. We now may be seated. We'll sing the hymn of Lecha Dodi, which begins on the bottom of page 29. Lecha Dodi likras kalbo, b'nei Shabbos nikablo. Lecha Dodi likras kalbo, b'nei Shabbos nekablo. Page 31. Shamor v'zachor v'diburecha. Ishmiuni el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shemu siferes v'l'sihila, lecha dodi likras kala, b'nei Shabbos nikablo, lihikras Shabbos l'chu v'nehelcha, ki mekor ha'beracha, Rosh mikedem nehesucha sof maaseh b'machshavot chila lecha dodi likras kahalo b'nei Shabbos nekablo. We'll skip now to page 33. Please rise. Yadadadam, badadadam, yamin, usmolti protzi, vies Adonai taharitzi, al yadish, ben partzi, ben ismecha, ben nagila, lecha dodi, likras kala, b'nei Shabbos nikabla. This time we turn to the back of the sanctuary to welcome the Sabbath. V'holi v'shalom ateret b'hala, gam b'simcha uv'tzahala. Toch emunei am segula, boichala, boichala. Ay 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 lecha dodi likras kahala, b'nei Shabbos nekablo. May be seated. I got an email today from the New York Board of Rabbis. They send out different ideas, the weekly Parshas and so forth. And a very distinguished rabbi from Manhattan, Rabbi Mark Angel, from the Rabbi Emeritus at the Spanish and Portuguese Synagogue in Manhattan, which is the oldest Jewish congregation in America. It's not the oldest synagogue because they moved buildings over the years. Their congregation also owns the oldest synagogue, which is well known, the Touro Synagogue in Rhode Island. He sent out something very interesting. He said that Mark Zuckerberg, who's the founder and the CEO of Facebook, someone was interviewing him and he asked, what do you look for when you're looking to hire somebody? What kind of qualities do you look for? And he said, if it's not someone who I would work for, I wouldn't hire them. Now, Rabbi Angel brought out different lessons that we can learn. I also had some ideas related to that. And that's really also teaching us, later on we're going to read in a few weeks. It says, Kadoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem. Ye shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Which is a very big and difficult task, that we should be holy because God is holy. And of course we can't even grasp anything of the holiness of God. So therefore, how could we be commanded by God to be holy because He is holy? And the answer is that we have to try our best to be, God put us here in this world. We have a lot to do. We have a lot of things to do. And when we open up this week's Parsha, which is the first in the book of Leviticus, and a lot of people, they look at the book of Leviticus and they see it's so many laws and it's so difficult, but really some of the most beautiful things in the world, that the whole world knows it. Love thy neighbor, all these things, they come from Leviticus. People think, it comes from somewhere else, and that's where it comes from. So you can't really put down, for sure, we wouldn't do such a thing, but even the rest of the world can't put down Leviticus because of all the great things that are in there. And of course, the name Leviticus, which means the book of the Levites, it comes from the traditional name that the Jews always called it, which was Toras Kohanim, the laws of the priests. And because the priests children of Aaron were from the tribe of Levi. They weren't the entirety of it, but they were from that same tribe. And was one of the families. And really, but that's not all that we have there. We have many more things, and we'll cover it over the next few weeks. But it starts off famously with the sacrifices, and actually there's an old tradition that when a child first starts to learn the Bible, you should start with Leviticus. Why? Because a child is pure and holy and sinless and blameless, and so we say those who are pure should come and study pure things, the holy, pure sacrifices of the temple. We don't have that today, but we still fulfill that before prayer, to read the portions in this, talking about the sacrifices. The prophet Hosea says that the offerings of your lips come in the place of bulls. And so therefore, we learn from there, from biblical source, that when we study these portions in the Torah, it's considered as if we're bringing the sacrifices. Now, what's the big deal of bringing a sacrifice, though? The sacrifice, a lot of people, they think, it's some kind of spooky, old-fashioned thing, you think of like native sacrificing things, and it seems very strange to our modern mentality. The fact is, the majority of the sacrifices were eaten by either the people bringing the sacrifices or by the priests. Very few were burnt offerings. There was a daily burnt offering every morning, every night. And even those burnt offerings, the hides were used by the priests. It wasn't totally wasted, and it wasn't a waste at all, but I'm saying from the perspective of a non-religious person who doesn't see the value in this, even in that sense, there was use made. But the main purpose, in one of the main names that we use for sacrifice in Hebrew is korban. And a korban, sometimes pronounced korban, it sounds like carbon sometimes. It means to bring close, to come close to God. That it's a vehicle for us to come close to God. And it actually says in the Talmud that now that we don't have the temple, we don't have the altar, that when we go and we eat, sit down and eat at dinner, even any day of the week really technically, but for sure on Shabbat and on the holidays, when we're eating our food, although it's not really sacrifices, and we go out of our way to avoid making it appear as if we're eating sacrifices. For example, coming up in 2 weeks from tonight is Passover, and we specifically don't eat any roasted meat on the night of Passover, so no one should get confused in thinking that we're bringing the Passover lamb as it was in the old days. A lot of what we consider roasted, if you put a little bit of liquid in it, it's already not roasted. So when you make your roasted chicken, just make sure to pour some water or oil or something in it, then it's already not considered roasted as far as that's concerned, as a practical matter. We do have that roasted meat on the Seder plate, which is roasted in its own juices, but we don't eat it because we don't want it to appear as if we're doing that grave violation of having a sacrifice outside the temple. However, the spirituality of the sacrifices we can still, in a sense, experience when we sit down and eat, and even more so, the holiness of it when we share with other people, when we invite other people who maybe might learn something new, or maybe who are less fortunate and don't have anywhere to celebrate the holiday. When we do that, so it's also that same experience of that sacrifice. And so how is that related to what I started with? With how, when we bring it, we have to be, that same person. We have to have that integrity we deal with. If you want to hire someone, it'd be someone you want to work for. We want to be just the same. How God is kind to us and giving to us, even if we don't deserve it, so too, that we should be kind and giving. Even maybe some people, they might not deserve, but we're still going to be kind and giving and not caring so much and have mercy on other people. That's one sense. But in the other sense is to be deserving and to have that integrity. It's a very interesting law. It starts off in Leviticus. It says, when a person from you comes and offers a sacrifice. And it's a very interesting law. According to Jewish law, any person of any religion could come to the temple in Jerusalem, or before the temple was built, to the tabernacle, and bring a sacrifice to God, who's not only our God, but the God of the whole world. So even someone who worships false idols, but they want to show respect to what they thought at that time was the Jewish God, but now has been recognized to most of the rest of the world, and he wants to show that respect, he's welcome to come and bring that sacrifice. However, if someone's born Jewish, and they leave the Jewish religion, and they're unrepentant, they're still practicing another religion, but they feel like coming and also offering a sacrifice in the Jewish temple, they weren't welcome, unless they repented and disavowed this other religion that they left Judaism, ostensibly converted to another religion, and they want to come back. They're not considered like a Gentile who has a different religion. He's welcome to come. But a Jew who takes on another religion was not welcome to bring a sacrifice in the Old Temple. So what about the question, what about someone who was not born Jewish, and then he converted to Judaism, and then he went back? Does he go back to his former status? And can he bring a sacrifice? Because a Gentile of any other religion can bring a sacrifice in the Jewish temple in the old days. Or is he considered the same like the born Jew, who once he converted, now he's Jewish, and now he wants to convert to a different religion. He's a Jew, and he converted to another religion, and he's not welcome unless he repents of that sin. And the answer is that he's considered just the same as the born Jew. Rabbi brings this in Divrei Yov, in Parshas Vayikra. He remains a Jew. He doesn't stop being Jewish. And that shows that part of being Jewish is having that commitment, I believe, and being a person of integrity. It comes to all matters of life. More than that also, we discussed before about how in the old days we had the sacrifice, and now not only our prayers, but also studying the writings of the sacrifices, but also the prayers in the old days when they were established, they tried to pray at the same time when the sacrifices were being given. This way, to have that connection together, that natural connection of something that was going on in one city with one person, that the whole nation felt that connection by having their prayers, and still to this day we have our prayers set up at that same time, and we accompany the prayers with recitations of the sacrifices. What's the point of prayer? I talked about this a few weeks ago, people, they were discussing, that the Super Bowl, how people, they pray for their team to win, and what's that all, and, some people were making fun of it and this and that, and no, it's something very deep. It doesn't mean that God's going to take this side or that side because someone's praying. It's not that God doesn't know what we need, and we need to tell Him. The whole purpose is that we should know that God is the one who's in control. When we say our prayers, and that's why we move our lips when we pray, we verbalize the prayers because that's how it gets into your mind. It says in Deuteronomy that this thing, what I commanded you, is not far from you. It's in your mouth and in your heart to do it. And that's related to the psychological idea of autosuggestion. When you talk yourself into something, it gets into who you are, and then you're able to do it. And so the same thing. When we talk about loving God, when we talk about these things, it changes who we are. It changes not only the lip service isn't just lip service, it gets into our mind. Our mind can't help but to be affected by the words we say. I'll give you an example in the interpersonal world. I heard an interesting story. Someone came to a marriage counselor, and they said, I'm going to divorce my wife, in 2 weeks. I'm giving up, this fellow said, unfortunately. And, so the counselor asked, well, what's the situation? And he saw it wasn't anything irreconcilable. It wasn't any reason that they had to get divorced. He just was fed up and in a bad mood and things. So the marriage counselor was an intelligent person, and he said, you know what? You're really upset at your wife. He said, yeah, the fellow said. He said, I have a great idea. She doesn't know that you want to get divorced. He said, no, she doesn't know yet. So this is what you have to do. This way you could really hurt her. From now until the next 2 weeks, only say nice things to her. Whenever you feel like being upset about something, just praise. Just shower upon her praise. This way she'll be so enamored with you over these next 2 weeks that when you let her go, it'll really hurt because it'll you're going to fall all the way down, you know? So he's like, that's a good idea. And he didn't, the marriage counselor had a good idea. He didn't really mean it in a negative way. But this fellow thought, this is how he's going to really hurt his wife before he drops her. And then he wound up lifting her up, but not only that, but he lifted himself up. By praising someone else, by focusing on the positive, it melded their relationship, and they wound up having a much happier marriage after that because of that. Those words are never empty. It takes our mind to take those words out of our mouth. And so if we say something positive, it also goes back into our ears and we hear it also. And we can become better people. In a big way, it's not the whole thing. It doesn't, of course there is a problem of empty lip service. And the prophets in the Bible do castigate the Jewish people for having empty lip service, for doing things without thought. But the fact is that if you use that as a goal, first of all, lip service, it still helps the person be better, I remember a rabbi in Jerusalem, Rabbi Wade, who himself was once a Methodist pastor before he converted to Judaism. He said, we have our daily prayers and we go through the motions, and is it really worth anything? And he said, absolutely. Why? Because you didn't really have to do it. No one put a gun to your head and said you have to put on the tefillin and the talis and say these words. So you did it anyway. So even if you didn't have the most exciting religious experience, the fact is, you did something incredible. You did something phenomenal. And you should feel good about it. And the fact is, it is an incredible thing. It is something we should feel good about. That we came now to synagogue, even if it's not every day, even if it's once a week, even if it's once a year. Whatever we do, we should always feel so good about what we do. Because really, that's what God is doing for us all the time. We just don't hear it. The fact is, just like I said, we have to be like the boss, that the employee, you want to hire an employee who's like who you wouldn't want to work for. The fact is, God is a boss who loves us, who cares about us. He only has good things in mind for us. We're coming now to the month of Nisan, and we're going to read tomorrow. Tonight starts the month of Nisan, the month which our liturgy which we read tomorrow says the Chodesh Makivus Bo Yeshuos. It's surrounded by all kinds of saving power and miracles, one after the other. And it could be also for us. We read also Parshas HaChodesh, and it says HaChodesh Hazel Lechem, which is the first commandment given to the entire Jewish people. Exodus 12. It actually says, Rashi says in the beginning of Genesis 1, he says, why didn't the Torah begin from Exodus 12? It's a book of laws. And so there's really a renewal. There's an opinion it's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a law in Rosh Hashanah that there are 4 New Years, and tomorrow is one of the 4 New Years. It's called the New Year for the Kings. In the old days, the kings, they would start their year, when they say the year of the rule of King so-and-so, it would be from the first day of Nisan. There's an opinion that the first day of Nisan is when the world was created. That means that we now have the power to renew everything brand new again. And so we have to celebrate that, hold on to that, and be excited for whatever it is. And a very good way to do it is through saying positive words. The power of positive words, whether it's when we're dealing with our families, with our friends, with our co-workers, with our schoolmates, with our teachers, with our students, whoever it is, with clients. The power of positive words can really have a tremendous impact. And also, it's not only the words that the other person hears us saying, but the words we hear ourselves saying, and that can bring us to saying that korban, that aspect of coming close to God, that experience of having a relationship with God, and be blessed with good things. Good Shabbos, and happy Passover.